Wait a minute.
Well, hello there, everyone. If you're joining us, say hello. I'm Terry Weaver, and this is Diana Alt. Is with me tonight, one of our Thing alumni, and she does all the things. She's got the full
Do a lot of things.
Terry Weaver support membership or whatever. She's got the all of the above option. So
Yep.
she suggested, hey, let's hang out. Let's talk about the thing to people. So here we are. We're here. I don't even know what day of the week it is. Is today Tuesday? Is that what today is?
Wednesday.
Wednesday? Okay, sure. You know how it goes. Um, we're here, and real quick, Diana, just tell everybody kind of, especially for my people, who you are, what you do, how in the world you heard about me.
Oh, I love this story so much. So, my name is Diana Alt, and I am a career strategy and business coach. I help people be the boss of their career and their business so that they can basically have the most fulfilling work life possible. So, and how I met Terry. So, this is an interesting story. I met Terry listening to the very first ever podcast. I had never been a podcast listener. And my friend Scott Harvey started a podcast. So I started listening to it, and you were on there. And at the time, I was looking for community because I had just left corporate to work full time for myself. And something in that podcast episode made me think Terry's the guy. So I started following and joined one of your pachyderm herds, signed up for the thing, the whole 9 yards. So now you can't get rid of me even if you wanted to.
Yeah, we've done VIP coaching days. We've done it all. You've come to the thing Orlando 2020, which was
Mm-hmm.
quite the adventure in the middle of a pandemic. And
Yes.
although to be honest with you, it feels like this year is actually a little harder and a little more complicated to put on for some reason. Maybe just because we were in like a really hip house last year, and this one's we're in a hotel, and it didn't seem like supply chain issues were a thing. So now it's like,
Oh gosh. Yeah.
let's find lanyards. Where does one find lanyards? Like, and so, um, yeah,
Yeah.
the adventures of adulthood and running a business.
Yes. And doing event management, which is not my thing. That's your thing.
Well, it's something I have chosen to do because I love the people that I do it for. Um, I wouldn't necessarily say I love curating experiences. I love creating environments where people can come together and dream really big and leave with a plan to do action to do something. And I think whether it's online or offline, that's what I do. And so I personally love live events. I believe they're super powerful. Um, Almost every major shift in my life has happened because I was at a live event, and the people that I met in that room literally shifted my future. I can, throughout my entire life, whether it was going to camp as a kid or um, going to my first conference or the first time to see somebody speak live or whatever it was, it's being in a room with other people who had a similar vision and a similar call in their life. And so, I've made it a big priority to create those things for other people. And
I love that you talk about that because I spent 20 something years of my life in corporate working mostly in technology, and there's so much focus around productivity and efficiency and when are we going to get the code done and all of these things that we focus on doing, and we forget the magic of being with others and letting create like creativity and conversation and all that kind of magic happen sometimes when we're in the wrong environment. And honestly, there are conferences that do that too. There's live events where it's just boom, boom, boom every 45 minutes. There's no margin, but that's something you're excellent at not doing. You make
well,
sure there's
in this,
time to be.
it's a crazy balance too, right? Because no one no one gets on an airplane and goes to other city and says, "Man, I just want to hang out with cool people." Um, Although that may have
Yeah,
been the reason half the people showed up last year, just because it was just like, dude, it's 2020. I got to get out of the house.
yeah.
I legit know some people that showed up just because it was like, there's humans and they're in a room. I'm gonna go be with them.
I was one of them. Like, I think I made comments about, I will wear a hazmat suit. You can wrap me in plastic. I just need to be around other humans. So,
Yeah, and you were honestly one of the reasons why you were one of the huge motivators why last year we persevered. You guys in my community just basically said, "Hey, man, I know this is hard, but if you can figure out how to make this still happen this year, can you do that?" And so,
mm,
thanks to just a lot of hard work and a little bit of luck and some creative people around me, we were able to pull it off. And
yeah, it was great.
it definitely didn't look anything like we had planned it to look. Um, but sometimes that's the best part about it is when, because I really do believe the magic does happen in the margins. And so yeah, you and I were talking earlier just about like what are the things that people experience at the thing, and I kind of and maybe this is just because I spent a long time making things start with one letter in another season of my life. But I think it comes down to three things, and the first one is one of those words that you already mentioned. That's relationships. Is I really believe that every leader is one relationship away from a different life. That you're one relationship away from the right person that knows that one thing you need to know, or knows that one person that you need to know, that can then be the key that unlocks all the doors that you need to go through.
I completely agree with that. And what's so interesting about it is I recently hired a part time person for my team to be an integrator, help me with project management ops, kind of bust me out of my own brain so I can bring some things to life. And she sent me a note recently, or we were texting recently, and she was telling me about how she liked what she was hearing and seeing about the people that are in my community, the people that I have coaching me, or the people that I do business with, to learn about email marketing or all kinds of different things. And she said, it's so weird that like everybody's reputable. Like they're not sleazy, they're not slimy, they're not, saying things that you can tell aren't true, they're not insincere. And I firmly believe that that's because I plugged in to your community and you don't refer us to that kind of riffraff. So if Terry tells me, here's a person to consider learning about email marketing from, her name's Liz Wilcox, I can trust that that person is going to help me out. So that's been really critical for me in finding coaches and finding service providers. That's a real, and in finding inspiration, doing a very, very difficult thing of owning and running a growing business in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, and I think I really do. I'm super grateful for the relationships that I have in business. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and most of these people aren't business associates; they're just real friends. They're people
Yes.
that we do life together, and we go to business things and look for other reasons. Like, how many days can we
Yeah.
not actually work when we're in this city? What else can we do while we're here?
Exactly.
And so, um, well, we work enough, but because that's when our best work gets done. because then we've created inspiring environments that allow ideas to flow, and we get to pour into each other's businesses. And so, yeah, I think relationships are so key. And you're right. I can't say that everyone that works with me is a perfect human being, but there's something I've definitely learned, and it's been a conversation I've been having with a lot of leaders lately. And this, I say the darndest things when I'm just talking, and then I write them down because I'm like, I should remember that. That's a good. That I said that. That's good.
That's good for later. That's
good
smart.
for later. And one of the things I said, and I said it on a call, and someone was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! What did you just say again? Like, repeat that." And then we've had a text thread unpacking this some more, and that is that success and wisdom aren't always good friends. Just because somebody is incredibly successful does not mean they're wise, and just because somebody that is wise doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be successful. But, and something that I've literally been unpacking today is, I think where those two intersect is with character and integrity. When people have character and when people have integrity, and not just integrity to the other people, but integrity with themselves. Yes. And integrity to understanding what they value and what they believe. Liz Wilcox is great at email marketing because she has a set of beliefs that dictate how she lives and how she acts and what she does. And that dictates everything else. You're who you are because you have a set of values that dictate what you believe that work, what you're saying that work, I believe work shouldn't suck, right?
Work shouldn't suck.
Yeah, and so
it just shouldn't.
It shouldn't. But because of that, that helps you in all of the work that you do. That helps your clients in getting a new job. But it's a core value. So because of that, your wisdom and your success have a nice intersection because your character is what it is and you're true to who you are. And I think that the relationship piece, that's one of the ways that it really comes into play. It's because it allows other people to see the greatness in us and to see the soft spots, the spots that are the blind spots that we may not see, and help make us better. And, we've been in rooms where we've seen that happen, where just, hey, these are people who, to an outsider might look like, bullhorns clashing. They're fighting. But it's really not. It's just about people making each other better and encouraging each other and pulling the best out of people. And, I really truly believe that, a rising tide rises all ships. And if you surround yourself with people of integrity, then everyone is going to be serving everyone. Everyone is not only going to be looking out for their best interest, but for the best interest of the good. And I'll be honest with you, like if I see someone in my community that's not, they get removed from email lists, and that I don't invite them to things, and they tend to not be encouraged to come to things just because I don't want that environment around my people. Because
I protect my people too, and it's actually can be very difficult. I had a situation earlier this year where there was somebody that was in my community and was saying the right words. It sounded like they were saying the right words of wanting to be part of what I'm building, but then they took advantage of me, and they took advantage of the kindness of some others in the community. And they did it twice. And the second time they did it, I was in fool me twice, shame on me mode, and had to remove that from my community because I have too many people to serve. Work sucks for too many people. So if I'm distracted by people that are going against the core values of me and my community, that's a distraction from helping work not suck.
Yeah.
And from all the other things I'm trying to do.
I was telling our friend Chelsea Brinkley this, and I really firmly believe this at my core, is I throw potlucks for a living. I throw potluck suppers, and I ask everyone that shows up at the potluck to bring the best they have. Now, if you've been to a potluck, you'll know that there's always an amazing grandmother that makes an amazing hash brown casserole. And then there's some single mother that, stopped at Kroger and could bring paper plates, but that's what she could bring. And when everybody brings to give and not necessarily to get, and sometimes we have to show up at a season where it's like, oh, I've got some empty paper plates. I hope someone's brought food to fill it. But there's a mindset and there's an energy, and that's what I think the thing is It's a place where people are showing up with something to give, even if they're not necessarily on the stage. That everybody is there to learn from other people and to lean into each other's businesses and to help make them better. And so I think I truly believe that's the environment we've created.
I agree too, and it's very interesting when you hear about what the event is like, because I was hearing about it for almost a year. I joined in to Terry Club in December of 19, just a couple months before our pandemic crazy started, and the event got rescheduled to November. And so I spent a year hearing about, oh, Terry's event is great. Like the speakers stick with it. They don't just get on the stage and leave after 45 minutes. And I think it really hit me that how true that was last year at the event. Whenever Rob Lott had been on stage speaking and telling us his perspective and sharing about some of the, creativity and leadership things that he spoke on. And then that same afternoon, Rob Lott was in the seats asking another speaker a question to help him in his business. And that was how the entire weekend went. So it's very cool stuff.
Yeah, that's one of our goals, honestly, right? Is that, as much as I want to serve the audience, and I truly do, if I can build an event with content of a caliber that would serve the speakers, I feel like I've won. And obviously, we're trying to get everybody in a journey, and we're even working on some creative ways this year to help people kind of identify where they're at in the journey. Because there's going to be people there.
Cool.
There's going to be people there that have no idea what to do next, that are completely stuck, and then there's going to be people there with 8 and 9-figure businesses. Mm-hmm. And there's one of our speakers that just had an 8-figure exit, and so there's all of these, and there's an attendee that just had a 6-figure exit, right? Or hopefully tomorrow. Yep. And so
tomorrow,
and I think that's, and it's that kind of putting this diverse group of humans in the room, so that they will help each other and push each other and contribute to each other, into actually creating an environment that actually does, kind of, my second R is results. Because at the end of the day, I want you to leave with a result. I want you to leave with a plan to get from where you are now to where you actually want to be. And I grew up kind of as a mall rat at the Springfield Mall in Fairfax County, Virginia. Bennigan's was my hangout with my friends. Like that was where we hung. That was where like everybody else was like going to the bar. I'm like, man, I'm going to Bennigan's, man. They got a Monte Cristo and bottomless coffee. And
solid.
But man, I remember like the most powerful thing at the mall is that map that tells you where you are and that says you are here. And we want to help you guys identify where you're at and get another location on the map to where you want to go, and help you get the results and the plan, so that as originally the thing happened in May, and now the thing is currently happening in November. What I love about November better than anything else is it really gives you a head start to launch into the next year, to launch into 2022 with a true plan and momentum, because I think momentum is what changes everything for leaders. If you can have momentum going into the next year, man, your life is going to be better, your business is going to be better. And so, I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts on the results, and just maybe even how those relationships help drive those for you.
Yeah, so the results thing is interesting. Some of the people watching this may have listened along to some of the advice I give to people that are seeking new jobs, because my people mostly, some of them are considering a career shift that could lead to entrepreneurship, full-time, or a side hustle. Some people are just like, that's not for me. I just want to go from one corporate gig to another. But the thing I constantly talk to people about is really thinking through what your results were when you're trying to position yourself for a new role. When you're an entrepreneur, what you're trying to do instead is think about, what is the result that I want to do? The bottom line is tasks are nothing. Yes, we have to take action, but if we sit and say, I did a whole to-do list of tasks this week, and none of it is the right thing to actually carry forward and to serve your clients, then all you did was keep yourself busy and probably burn money that you didn't need to burn. The beautiful part of hanging out with a tribe of people that are from all different kinds of businesses and different stages in business is that we can learn from each other and can be reminded of where we were in the past. So when I first signed up for the thing, I was very naive about this business ownership world. I thought that you could figure out a lot of stuff, because we hear about overnight successes, and you think, oh, well, there was this person that blew up their coaching business or blew up their product business or their membership, and they did it, and I just started noticing them, and they're big in a year. Well, I thought I was going to come up with this massive plan that was going to be the definition of my whole business, when really what I needed is like the next two or three steps. The next two or three steps. And I feel like hanging out with this set of people and attending this event helps me with my next two or three steps. So anytime I go to anything, I'm always thinking about what's the problem that I'm having right now serving others to have the impact that I want to have. And there always is one. So my problems this year are not the same as my problems last year. But I will walk into the thing with here's a thing or two that I want to solve, and I need help figuring out what are the next couple of actions that I'm going to take in order to do that. So I'm really looking forward. Last year I did the VVIP day, which was awesome. Got some great ideas, and I learned just by listening to what other people had going on in their business. And originally this year I thought, I did that last year. I don't know if I need it. And lo and behold, I came up with, I'm trying to launch some stuff in the end of Q4 and early Q1. And I want to take the opportunity to figure out what are the next two or three things that I need to do by going to the VVIP day. So what is the result that I want to get from the thing? It's getting me to where I can launch my resume course in early Q1. That's all I'm focused on. I'm not focused on the revenue goal for all of 2022. I'm focused on a launch that I want to do about 90 days from now.
Yeah, and I think let's talk about the VVIP day for a second, which we have four spots left.
Come hang out with me. It's so fun.
And what's fun about the VVIP day is there's almost as many speakers there as there are attendees, because they want that experience too. Several of our speakers have said, "Hey, man, can we work out something where I can be in that room?" And two speakers actually said, "Hey, man, if you've only got 4 spots, I'm not taking 2 of them. I'll schedule a coaching call with you later." But yeah, we're down to just 4 spots, and we'll be meeting at a luxury house in Reunion Resort, which is just about 20 minutes from a host hotel. And we'll spend the entire day. Actually, we'll go to dinner. We'll go to dinner on Tuesday night. And we'll spend the entire day on Wednesday, just kind of putting you and your business in the hot seat with myself, Roberta Candelaria, and McNair Wilson, who used to be Disney Imagineer. Kind of, whatever your next thing is. Diana said, "Hey, this is my next thing. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to figure out." And we'll spend that time getting her, kind of those next A, B, C, D steps that she can take right away and get into, and it may even be naming the idea, figuring out what suppliers she may need to connect with, or vendors she needs to connect with to make that a reality, or what else does she, what are the holes that she has in her idea that we can use what we know and help her fill them really quickly. And not just what we know, but what the entire room knows.
Yes.
Which is really powerful.
That's what I was going to say, is there's 2 really great things that I've seen, and that is the expertise in the room is broad. And so you'll have something brought up. But the other thing you can do is, for me, I'm the queen overthinker. Like, I should have a sash and a crown like you get at the Miss America pageant for overthinking. And so sometimes when I walk in... Miss Overthinker.
We need to get you a Miss Overthinker.
For sure. 100%. I need that. But when I walk into rooms more recently, I don't have any problem with ideas. I have problem with landmines. So I do hey, you might want to think about this. Did you actually figure out if that product name is going to work for your people, or trademark protected already, or something like that? But what I often am asking for is simplification. Help me make this easier. My brain is tied it's like a big bowl of spaghetti. and I'm churning and I'm not taking action. And so these experiences can teach you things that are gaps, but also help you sort of untangle your brain and simplify things. We don't have to be the most impressive, most well thought out, most perfect thing when we first launch something. In fact, there's a lot to be said for shipping bee work. And a challenge I've had for myself is to start getting comfortable shipping B work instead of hanging on to it until I have A plus work.
Yeah.
So that's
And
where
and
results
I'll be
are.
honest with you, the very first version of the thing, you know, the people that attended the event would have given it a much higher grade than I gave myself. I don't think we shipped even close to being work with the first year of the thing. Now, granted, the people that came and got a result, it was a home run for them. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, it was a swing and a miss. And but I really believe that we often have such high standards for ourselves that we keep ourselves from actually getting those results.
Yeah.
Because the idea that we have in our mind is so great, but it's unexplainable to people. People don't have a way to get to even grasp what's possible. And believe me, I understand that. Like, I'm trying to explain what's going to happen in a room over 3 or 4 days, and there's really no way to put into words what happens at the thing other than to look at people like you and go, here's what they've experienced, here's what they've learned, here's who they've met, here's what they've done because they were there. And you know and I can't guarantee your results. There are some people that have
Yeah.
attended the thing that haven't done a darn thing, and there are some people that left, got on the phone the week after and generated $40,000 or $50,000 of revenue. It's a matter of are you going to take those results and actually turn them into revenue, and that really comes down to the one trait that I would say about 90% of the people that attend the thing have, and that's a bias for action.
Yes.
And that is like, okay, and we'll encourage you at this. What can you do? I always say, what can you do on Tuesday? Because the day after the event,
Mm.
right? The Monday after the event, the reality is half of us are going to be at a theme park that day, anyways, because we don't want to leave Orlando just yet. But what can you do
Yeah.
on Tuesday? What can you do right away in your business? And I want you to leave. I remember the very first thing I went to that was a conference. It was a 1 day workshop, and the speaker said, "Hey, here are some things you can use this week in your program." And I was like, "Wow, that's life changing." Because I was expecting to learn like
Mm-hmm.
stuff for 2 years from now, and I learned something I could do 2 days from now. And I think we have both of those things. But the things that you get going and begin to exercise your muscle of doing and not thinking about doing, and getting out of that goop and spaghetti that you just talked about of like, man, I have all these ideas. Man, just there's not a bad one in there. Pick one and go for it. And that's what I think. All of these things kind of add up. Relationships, revenue, and results all add up to give you, kind of that magic mixture for what we've created with the thing.
I love that you talk about that. And one of the things, so I'll tell you about what I did on Tuesday. So going back again to Liz, our email marketing buddy, email marketing is like the one thing that somewhere along the line people tried to convince us that social media is a substitute for, and it's not. And Liz got up and talked about her model for email marketing, which is much more simple than a lot of things I'd heard before. And she had a really great product that is 22 bucks called 20-minute newsletters. And I'm just like, I can buy that. I got her freebie and I spent $22 on this. And it wasn't, it took a little while because you have to be consistent with email marketing so that people start to trust you. But that investment of $22 has paid off directly from my email box 100-fold, because I about 60 days later, I think it was, I sold $2,200 to a client that I'd never met, I didn't have a prior relationship with. They found me in a Facebook group and downloaded my freebie. They were on my list for about 6 or 8 weeks, and then boom, they spent $2,200 on services. So that's when we say, like, there's relationships and then there's results or actions that start to move you towards results, and then the revenue comes as a result of consistency of action. That's my 100x on that small expenditure that I had as a result of sitting and listening to that at the thing.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't the thing I thought I was going to work on. It was one of those deals that was in the big bowl of spaghetti as something for someday, but suddenly it felt achievable to do a thing that I knew I would eventually need. And so I kind of bumped it up on the list. And all I do is send one email a week. That's all I
Yeah.
do
And they're fun.
in that right
You've gotten
now.
really good
So
at
they're
it. You know
fun.
why? Because for the last
Because
40 some weeks, you've sent an email every
yep,
Friday. And they keep getting better,
yep.
and they keep getting more interesting. And every now and then, you'll call me on Thursday or send me a text on Thursday and go,
Yeah,
"All right,
this is a
Weaver, I need
really
an
good one. You
idea."
get it now.
Huh?
Yeah, that was right. I was like, I'm not inspired to. Well, that's where consistency comes in, and having support for that. Having support whenever you need to be consistent and you don't have this, the wind in your sails is a big thing. Because yeah, my last email was all you saying you should talk about this because you don't know what you want to talk about. So
Well, and that's
I
the
wanted to
reality
step.
is I want to move you from the Cheesecake Factory menu to the In-N-Out Burger menu, which is like you
Mm.
want a hamburger, you want fries, you want a shake. And the Cheesecake
You,
Factory, I can't even decide. I literally don't even read the cheesecakes anymore. I get one cheesecake, and there's only one that's the right answer. It's the dark chocolate Godiva cheesecake. The rest of them don't matter because I don't want to read the rest. I don't want to make that decision ever again. And you might
well,
have.
yeah, I don't like making decisions. I don't making too many decisions is noise in my already spaghetti like brain, so
Yeah.
I understand that. I just don't go to the Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah.
I just
You know
go.
who actually messed this up is our buddy Mike Brennan and I. We were at Waffle House because that's what you do after you go to a
Oh
concert.
boy,
And
Alice
Waffle House
Cooper, and
because
then the
yeah, and because they had shrunk their menu down, they took all the pictures off the menu, which blew my mind. It was like you guys got the
horrifying.
easiest menu. Well, there's still a picture, and all of the same things are on the menu. They're all still there, but there was only like 6 pictures, 3 on the front, 3 on the back. When before there was like 407, and I just pointed at it and be like, I
Yeah,
want that thing. That's got eggs and smothered and covered
hey,
and waffles. It's a bacon. I'll have that one. And so you can still have what you want, but they made it harder for me. Which when you go to Waffle House, you're not always in your best decision making capabilities, and
yeah,
so. And I'm going to help it. I'm going to make it really easy. I'm going to tell everyone what they need to do for the thing. They need to show up. And there's 2 ways you can show up. You can show up in the room, which I'd highly encourage you to do. Um, get in the room and join us in 3 weeks' time in Orlando, Florida. There's 3 tickets. You can pick one. They're all at thething.live. Or if for some reason you can't get in the room, we do have a virtual ticket available. It's the same price because the content's not the same, and we're going to do our best to provide some Facebook groups. And I know even a few people kind of in my, I know one person who's stuck in a foreign country that can't get here. I know one person that has surgery the week before that's recovering that can't be there, and so even some of our like core people are going to be watching the live stream, and so we won't have Hollywood pyrotechnics or anything for you, but we will have a camera set up in a live stream, and hopefully audio that you can hear. And we'll record all the talks. If you missed one, you can go back and watch them. And you get that if you get the live stream ticket. But yeah, showing up in the room. Rarely do people leave the same. Rarely do people leave without a direction, and because I think that the relationships, the dividends on the relationships that you made last year are just now you're seeing pay off. In hopefully 5 years from now they'll still be paying off.
hmm
You've already 100x year. Imagine how that one thing that you did with Liz, how that's going to continue to play out, and what that's going to do in your business 10 years from now.
yeah,
And you'll be able to look back at the moment where it happened.
yeah.
So, what would you say to someone who's thinking about showing up and still not sure? They're making the list of like, this is expensive, this is time away, travel's no fun right now. What would you say to them that are kind of like, man, I'm not sure if this is worth it?
Oh boy, there's a few things. First off, travel's never been fun, so like stop using that as an excuse. The only difference between travel now and travel 2 years ago for this event is that you got to wear a mask on the airplane and in the airport. That's it. I don't love doing that. I don't love it at all. But that's really the only difference. So stop using that as an excuse.
And let's be
The other
honest,
thing I
if you fly Southwest or Frontier or Spirit or a lot of the airlines that all of us do, a mask ain't such a bad idea. Pandemic or no
yeah,
pandemic.
we're not. If you're not taking a private jet, you probably it's not the worst idea in the world to have a mask on. The second thing I would address is the money thing. So I'm a big believer, especially for anyone that is doing any sort of services based business. So whether if you're a coach or if you are a consultant of any kind that's advising other people, you owe it to those people that are paying you a lot of money, which you should be charging a lot of money if you're good at what you do. You owe them to get better.
Yeah.
So I will not hire coaches that do not invest in themselves. I won't do it. Now, that's not to say they have to be in a big expensive program and go to 20 conferences a year, but you owe it to your people to invest in yourself so that you can continue to learn and serve them as well as possible, whether it's by improving your services, improving your operations so that it's easier to do business with you, or improving your network so that you can point them to people that solve the next problem that they need to solve after you've done theirs. So you owe it to your people. And then the third thing I would say is that you need to do one of my favorite things I've ever heard you do is you had a little talk from the mini thing in LA in 2018 or 2019. It's a podcast episode where the subject was going all in on you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need to show up for yourself and go all in on you if you actually want to make a go of hitting your dreams. So in the scheme of things, like if you aren't going to be able, if you literally won't be able to eat and live indoors, if you spend the money to go to the thing, you might want to think about a different way. But most people are not in the situation. They're in the situation where they're going to buy themselves one less Christmas present, or they're gonna take the coach ticket instead of the business class ticket on their next trip. That's the kind of decisions that we're making. We're not making eat and then live indoors. And to me, the thing is actually very it's really inexpensive for the access that you're getting to people. And all community things that I love to side, all fun and games like VIP day at, are we doing Epcot this year?
Yes.
Is that one? Yeah, VIP day with tour at Epcot. Don't tell anybody or tell everybody and get them to buy the VIP ticket, whichever. But those things all by themselves are amazing, but just the caliber of people that you get access to is unbelievable for the price that you're talking about. We're not talking about people that, everybody, the speakers have only made 50 grand more than me. Like, that's great. I'd like to make 50 grand more, but I am dreaming bigger. I want to see what it's like to have a 7-figure business, an 8-figure business. There are people in the room that literally have done what you may dream of for 10 years from now, and they've gone through what you're going to go through in the next 12 months. So I don't know of any other event where you can get access to this kind of people for this price.
Yeah, and you're right, and I really do believe that the question that most people really need to be asking is, what's the cost of not acting?
Yes.
Not what's the cost of attending, but what's the cost if in November of 2022, if my life looks the same as what it does, if my business looks the same as what it does, what's the cost? And
Mm-hmm.
and then the next question they probably need to ask is, what's the cost if I don't get to help the people that I'm supposed to help? What's the cost if I don't know how to take my message to all the people that need to hear it? How does that affect them? And it starts to,
Yeah.
the thing is intentionally, we have marketed in such a way, we've probably undermarketed the event. I mean, I know we have, because we've intentionally built it not to be massive. And you can tell me that that's bad business all day long, but what's good business is being able to create an environment for you guys where you could come to the event, get the proximity. We don't have a green room, so the speakers aren't hiding backstage having extra cool conversations without you. Most of them normally duck away and go to the bar or go grab dinner together one time. But for the most part, almost every meal, at least half the speakers are hanging out there with giving you access to them. I ask at the very least that every speaker spends the entire day of the day they're speaking at the event. A couple people, obviously have like, oh my gosh, it's the final for my daughter's volleyball tournament or whatever. They have family things that kind of get in the way. But for the most part, almost every speaker is there the entire weekend, fully engaged, making themselves available to you. So that if you have a question about email marketing, you can grab Liz Wilcox in the lobby and say, hey, Liz, I got a question about email marketing. And if you ask Liz that question on a normal day of the week, it would cost you a lot of money. If you wanted to grab Roberto Candelaria or Warren Carlisle or McNair Wilson or Justin Shank or McNair Wilson or myself, these are all people, Julie McCoy, these are all people that any other day of the week would cost you thousands of dollars to get access to them, to get your questions answered. Mm-hmm. And so they're available to you for the entire weekend for you to get their attention and say, hey, can you help me figure this out of my business? And most of the time, they can see what your problem is in 2 seconds and get you on a path to where you need to go, and headed in the direction that your business needs and your life needs.
Yeah, I want to hit on something too that was really striking to me whenever I came to the event last year. Now, by the time I got there, I knew a lot of the faces. I'd been, interacting with people online or, starting to follow and learn about them. But I had this moment where I walked in that giant house that we had the thing in last year. There was that movie theater room where we did all the sessions. And I walked in later in the game. I was one of the last people walking in. And I looked up and I realized I couldn't tell the difference from the speakers and the other attendees because everyone was mixed the whole time. So it's also not that thing where the speakers are cliquey with each other and you feel, yeah, you can talk to Justin Schenk about whatever, but you feel weird about it because he's hanging out with all the other speakers. It's not that. It's just everybody's mingled together as if we're all peers. We're all at different places in the event, but there's nobody that was there last year. I don't know everybody that's coming this year. Some people are repeats, some people that are not, but that's not the kind of people that come to this. It's the people that come to this are not trying to hold themselves above you just because they've been in business longer and just because they have something important enough to the group that Terry invited them to be on the stage that day. So
and half the people didn't ask to be on the stage. I prodded them and said, hey, you've got something to say. And that's one of the other things. People need to... You're not going to come to this event and sit in the back row every year and feel comfortable. I want you to move to the stage if that's where you're at. If that's what you know. At the very least, I'm going to put you on stage and interview you, or do what Diane and I are doing here, where I want to have conversations with you. I want people to learn. I believe in Diane. I believe she's one of the best. She knows more about careers. When I had questions about people in my life that I love and their careers, I asked Diana those questions. And that's really because I truly believe. We kind of joke that somehow we've become the Olive Garden. And not like because we have mid-grade Italian food, but because Olive Garden has a career a promise that they say, here, your family. Yes. And they're just trying to convince you of that. And if you've ever been in Olive Garden, I don't think they really deliver on that. I
haven't been in Olive Garden in a minute. Yeah. I haven't been in Olive Garden in a minute, but I will say that, 2 years ago was when I first heard Scott Harvey, right around 2 years ago, because I had Facebook memories popping up, is when I first heard you on Scott Harvey's show. And then I, shortly after that, joined into your community in one of the coaching groups. And it was stunning to me because at the time, I couldn't envision a moment where anyone would care enough about what I have to say to go on a Facebook Live or a podcast. I didn't think I had that in me. And I thought that a lot of the people that were in your orbit were way above me. They're way beyond what I could do. But it turns out that 1 year in, I knew people, and 2 years in, a lot of them are close friends, family, people I can count on. So that evolution of relationship, I'm a huge like relationships is my favorite art. I like money, but relationships are where God literally created us to be social creatures. So that's critical for me.
But
But I've
literally, relationships make you money.
turned that in. They do make you money, but it's stunning to me that 2 years ago I was listening to a podcast, and now some of the people I was listening to are family,
Yeah.
and that can happen for others too if they're willing to put in, the effort. So
Yeah. And all you have to do is show up. And so, if you're looking for a place that's like Cheers, where everybody knows your name, and that's really what's. I mean, it's funny to watch this because we joke about this, right? And you and I talked about this. And we're
Norm.
kind of yes. I think Mike Brennan's our norm. Um, we'll
Maybe.
make him our norm. But you and I talked about this, and I look back to that Scott Harvey interview that I did, and Scott. I met Scott because Mike Kim and I connected on the internet, and Mike did a post that said, "Hey, do any of you guys that travel and speak and coach and stuff for a living struggle with insomnia?" And I'm like, "Heck yeah, Mike! I'm on the struggle bus." I commented, and then Mike slid into my
Oh
DMs,
wow.
and we started talking about time zones, and because the time zones just always, I don't even know where I am half the time. And normally around the thing, I normally Leslie, my wife, did it last week where you're like, oh, you're on the West Coast, and now you're on Eastern time, and then you're on this time, and you don't even know what time that is, and so sleeping gets difficult. And so Mike and I started talking about that. Next thing we know, I'm at a Korean barbecue restaurant, which I had never had, in the middle of northern Washington State, north of Seattle. We talked. I found out Mike was going to be at Jeff Goins' event, who I had on my podcast, and I emailed Jeff and said, "Hey, I want to come out and support Jeff at Mike at your event. Is that cool?" Because I just don't let people just randomly just showing up, and I didn't want to just be the guy that showed up. I was like, "Do I need to buy a ticket?" He's like, "No, man. We're homies. Here's a ticket. Show up." So I sat at a table, and I sat next to Karen Anderson, who was one of our speakers, Paul Klein, who was one of our speakers, and Scott Harvey. And Paul Klein had been an attendee the year before and said, "Hey, I want to speak on your stage next year." And I'm like, "Well, sure. Why not? You're the first person asked. I'll make it happen. I hope you're good. Let's go get good. Take a class." And we talked about it, and I met Scott. A couple weeks later, Scott was like, "You were cool. Hey, dude, can you come be on my podcast?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I had no idea who was going to listen to his podcast. He had just started
Yeah.
at the time. You've come to the event because you heard me on the podcast. You joined my mastermind. I think you had like 5 people that paid full price to attend the event last year. You've referred all kinds of people, all because I talked about not sleeping with Mike Kim, showed up for a dinner, said yes to a podcast, and who knows how this will all play out in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
And it really comes down to relationships, results, and revenue. That all of those things kind of go in a circle and serve each other. When we say yes, and when we show up for other people, when we serve other people, and most of those things, none of those things happen with an agenda. I didn't get on Scott Harvey's podcast and go, "You know what, today I'm going to sell a mastermind group membership. I'm going to sell this." I just went up and said, "How can I serve Scott's community of side giggers?" That was my only goal. And because I showed up, you heard me, then the next thing I know, I hear from you, and you're like, "Hey, I just listened to 26 episodes of your podcast on a road trip from Kansas City to Dallas and back." And I'm like, "Wow, that's a lot of Terry Weaver listening. Are you okay? Do we need to get you help?" And here we are. And now you're an amazing part of my community, and we'll be together in Orlando in a few weeks. So I'm excited about this next season of growth for you, and this next season of you scaling your business. And I believe the best is yet to come. So
Thank
if
you.
you want to do what
For
Diana
both of
did,
us.
yes. If you want to show up, join us at the thing. You go to thething.live, get your tickets there. You can join us either virtually or in person. And yeah, I think we've talked about all the things. We've answered all the questions. Diana, do you have anything to say in closing before we wrap this thing up?
Just do it. Just do the thing. Come to the thing so you can do the thing.
Yeah. Well, I think that says it all. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, leave them below in the comments. Slide into my DMs. I'd love to answer any questions you may have, or help make it possible for you to be with us. We will see you at the thing.